वेलकम बैक टू 358th एपिसोड ऑफ थॉट बिहाइंड थिंग्स। आज 23 अगस्त 2023 है और ये हमारे दुबई स्टूडियो की सेकंड एपिसोड है। दुबई में आने का लार्जली मकसद मिडल ईस्ट की ग्रोथ को अंडरस्टैंड करना और साथ साथ पाकिस्तानियों को ग्लोबलाइज करना इन देयर थॉट, इन देयर बिजनेस, इन देयर इकोनॉमिक्स, बिकॉज इट हैज़ बिकम इंक्रीजिंगली क्लियर कि पाकिस्तान की इकोनॉमी का सोल्यूशन अब ये है कि हम एक्सपोर्ट करें, चाहे प्रोडक्ट करें, चाहे सर्विस करें, चाहे ह्यूमन कैपिटल करें। एंड देयरफॉर इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट टू फर्स्ट अंडरस्टैंड कि एग्जैक्टली वो दुनिया देख क्या रही है, रिक्वायरमेंट्स क्या हैं, अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ क्या हैं, एंड देन बिगिन टू इवॉल्व आवरसेल्व्स अकॉर्डिंगली। सो आई होप कि जो मेरी कॉन्वर्जेशन हैं उससे आपको भी कुछ सीखने का मौका मिले। आज हम बात कर रहे हैं तलहा सलीम के साथ। इट्स अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग कॉन्वर्जेशन बिकॉज तलहा वर्क्स इन अ वेरी वेरी स्पेसिफिक नीश ऑफ बाइंग हाई नेट वर्थ इंडिविजुअल्स, अमीर तरीन लोग दुनिया के, उनके लिए एक ऑल्टरनेट नेशनैलिटी। बड़ा ज़िंदगी भर सुनते तो आए थे कि कैरेबियन आइलैंड्स के आप पासपोर्ट्स खरीद सकते हैं, तुर्की का पासपोर्ट खरीद सकते हैं, बट आई नेवर रियली न्यू समवन हु वुड एक्चुअली helps you out in acquiring them. Talha actually does that. He's helped hundreds of people all over the world, a lot of them being Pakistani as well, to actually acquire a secondary citizenship by investment or by donation, चाहे वो Caribbean Islands की हो या otherwise. We talk about that particularly because ये एक बहुत एक unique work है, and so it's interesting to see how he evolved into something like this. Personally मेरे लिए I learned a lot from this because पहले पूरी ज़िंदगी में ये सोचता आया था कि ये सिटीज़न बाय इन्वेस्टमेंट तो कोई 2 नंबर काम है, इलीगल काम है, या आप मुल्क की गद्दारी कर रहे हैं। ऐसा बिल्कुल भी नहीं है, इट्स परफेक्टली लीगल। एंड बेस्ड ऑन हिज स्टोरी आई लर्न कि देयर आर सो मेनी इनोवेटिव वेज टू ग्रो अगर आप अपना दिमाग खोलें। सो आई होप दैट यू लर्न समथिंग फ्रॉम दिस एज वेल। इफ़ यू आर न्यू टू द चैनल, डू सब्सक्राइब, आई रिक्वेस्ट यू, और इफ़ you're someone who's returning, do like this video. It really helps the algorithm, and I would definitely request कि अगर आपके कोई thoughts हैं तो comment section में हमें ज़रूर बताएं. It really helps me make the quality of conversation better. But anyways, here's Talha Saleem on TBT Go, Dubai Studio. Talha, thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thank you, Muzamil, for having me. बहुत शुक्रिया.
Talha, मैं कॉन्वर्सेशन को थोड़ा सा स्टार्ट करूँगा. पहले तो मुझे ये बताएं, where were you born and early life आपने कहाँ पे गुजारी?
Born in Karachi. My parents are from Pindi, Islamabad. But I was born in Karachi because my father was in PIA. He was posted in Karachi.
Right.
So that's where I was born.
और कितने अरसे वहाँ पर आप रहे?
I was there till 2008. So about 19 years.
अच्छा, so you stayed in Karachi. और एजुकेशन वगैरह कहाँ से ली?
Education मेरी वही, मतलब it's a very funny name. I was in a school called Happy Home.
अच्छा, I've heard of that before.
Yeah, it was on Shahid-e-Millat.
Right.
Back then it was a good school. I don't know how it is now. And I was there till 2000, I think. And then I moved to DHA, the one in Phase 8.
Right.
और फिर वहाँ से I was forced to move into a boarding school.
अच्छा.
Into a cadet college.
Which one?
It's called Pakistan Steel Cadet College. Steel mill से आगे, वो कराची में.
अच्छा, कराची में. और वो was it like were you a day scholar या आपको रहना वहीं?
नहीं, मुझे रहना था. I was there for 3 years. I was thrown.
अच्छा.
In the deep end.
Interesting. How was that experience? I mean, वो बड़े लोग कहते हैं कि cadet college जो है वो आपको it either makes you or breaks you.
Well, it did both for me because I couldn't wait to come back.
Right.
I was from a very different background. I came from a very decent family, well-to-do kind of people. We were average, but when I went there, I saw दुनिया कैसी होती है. I was 13 years old.
Right.
I was 13 years old. I went there and I had people from all across Pakistan.
Right.
And usually, you see a different mix of people there.
Right.
And good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
So there were instances which led to, me deciding I want to come back. But then it also made me very, very, very tough, I was there for 3 years.
Right.
Very
high school वहीं से graduate किया?
No, so I started with Cambridge, which is GCSE, till 8th grade, and then my father decided you cannot do this because every year, was a struggle for me.
Right.
I was a very bad student.
Right.
तो हर साल के end में ये होता था, my father would go to the parent-teacher meeting and then he'd be like, इसका retest कर लें, इसका retest कर लें. And then I would be the only one sitting in an empty room trying to do a retest, and then, okay, you go to the next stage.
Right.
So, 8th grade के बाद my father decided you can't do this anymore. You बेटा आप boarding जाएंगे, आपका काम नहीं चलेगा, because I had a very interesting childhood, very very naughty.
Right. अच्छा क्वेश्चन है, एक नॉटी होता है जो पाकिस्तानी सोसाइटी के लिए नॉटी होता है बट एक्चुअली क्यूरियस होता है मेरे एक्सपीरियंस में ना. एक नॉटी होता है ट्रबल चाइल्ड. वर यू अ ट्रबल चाइल्ड और वर यू?
I was both.
अच्छा.
Yeah. I was very curious. I used to ask too many questions. I would get into everything, but I was also privileged. So I had that, वो पाकिस्तानी एक बच्चे का होता है ना, अगर घर में एक नौकर भी है, अगर घर में एक हेल्पर कहूँगा, ड्राइवर है, so you feel like you're the boss of the world. So मैं बहुत ज़्यादा privileged था. Yeah, so I was a bit of both.
Right.
So then I was told कि बेटा तुम्हारा काम यहाँ नहीं चलेगा, अगर तुम इस बार पास नहीं हुए तो तुम जाओगे boarding.
Right.
So I was
And you didn't
sent
pass.
to the boarding school.
Right.
And that was my first year in the matriculation system, जिसको हम कहते हैं, which was 8th grade. And then I had to learn Sindhi because, you know, in GCSE you never learn the local languages. And अब मैं आ गया and I have to, you know, it was a complete culture shift for me as a 13-year-old child. So that's where I first learned on how to really adapt.
Right.
So I did my matriculation there. तो अभी मैं लोगों को बताता हूँ. I don't know. I think we have certain perceptions again in Pakistan. People differentiate between GCSE का बच्चा and matriculation का बच्चा. So I am the matriculation वाला बच्चा. You know, गली का बच्चा.
हाँ, क्योंकि मुझे ना हमेशा वो आता है कि यार आप OA लेवल्स वाले लेकर आते हैं और आप जो है ना सक्सेस स्टोरी सिर्फ वही वाली निकाल के दिखाते हैं, तो भाई ये मैट्रिक वाले साहब हैं.
मैट्रिक वाले हैं, और मैट्रिक भी हमने ऐसी जगह से किया है जहाँ, you know,
पाकिस्तान देखे हैं जाके. सही है. So 3 years you did your metric.
I did my matriculation.
What about the, what's it called, first year?
So my father said, if you score over 80%, I'm going to have you back. I'm going to bring you back home, which means you're an improved kid. So I scored over 85% in my matriculation. All of a sudden, I was a changed boy.
That's a stunning result, by the way, right?
Yeah, from below 30s, just to get back home, my performance goes up, you know, 85 plus, and I want to go back home because it's a very difficult place to be. You know, अभी तो I think exposure बहुत बढ़ गया है and you can't hit a kid. उस time ऐसा, जब it's not that long, it's maybe 20 years ago, but open canning होती थी. If you fail an exam, आपको गंजा कर देते थे. You know, so in our क्या होता है वो exam से पहले जो mocks होते हैं, if you fail the exam, they shave your head off. तो उस डर से canning हो रही है, मतलब, you know, you'd just be, it was a very different kind of environment. It makes you tough.
Yeah.
And then I said, no, man, I can't do this. Most of the guys wanted to go to army and navy. So I was not the guy. I wanted a civil life. मुझे देर से उठना पसंद है. I'm not going to do that. उस time, जो culture था वो ये था, everybody wanted to be in armed forces.
Right. Private sector wasn't a thing, really.
Private sector was obviously a thing. Stock market back then in 2002, before the crash, was booming. But the kind of people that I was interacting with, the kind of people who were coming to that particular place, they all wanted to be कि जी हम किसी तरह फौजी बन जाए, and that's our future. That people aspired to be there. I was never the guy.
Right.
I was always, again, late for my assemblies, late for the parades, late for this, late for that, and I couldn't wait to be back home क्योंकि मेरे लिए major lifestyle difference था. Right. So after my matriculation, my father said, okay, come back. बड़े मजे की कहानी है. So I came back and I looked for colleges. I joined a college called PAF KEET, very popular in Karachi back then. और मैंने वो join किया, and very, very interestingly, first year I failed again. Right, तो अब बच्चा घर आ गया, फिर मेरे पास गाड़ी. I was 30.
What's going on?
I was like 16 years old. I was 16 years old. I had my own car. I became very privileged again. कि अब तो मैं अपनी bag उसमें आ गया हूँ. It's very funny. Yeah, so I went back.
It's interesting how there is a lesson here, right? कि given the right incentive, it's incredible how well a human being performs. The incentive taken away. So the incentive there was कि यार मैंने वापस जाना है.
Yes.
when that incentive was taken away, suddenly your performance dipped as well.
Anytime you are in your comfort zone, you stop moving ahead in life, I would say that way. And then I was back into my normal zone. I was chilling, and then I was failing my exams again. And my father probably to date doesn't know about it.
अच्छा, so you become smart enough to maneuver through things now.
तो कराची में उसको सप्ली बोलते हैं. मेरी सप्ली आई थी फर्स्ट ईयर में, you know. And then my mom decided कि बेटा सेकेंड ईयर के बाद तू इंग्लैंड जाएगा. तो वापस नहीं आएगा. You're going. You're not staying home. So 2 years I did in PF Keat. शारा फैसल पे था. And then I moved. Once I finished, I moved to England, which was also again a challenge with the family's finances. I mean, sending a kid to England, I would consider अब तो खैर और भी मुश्किल हो गया होगा. उस टाइम भी बहुत ज़्यादा मुश्किल था.
Right. पेशा आदमी के लिए जाना है, it's not इतनी कोई सेविंग नहीं होती कि आप
बिल्कुल
लगा दें.
And my father was of the opinion कि एक दफ़ा आप घर से इंग्लैंड चले गए तो आप वापस नहीं आएंगे. The mindset.
Yeah.
And my mother was of the opinion कि जी no, you got to do this and you got to move out. But it was the toughest on her as a mother, right?
What about your siblings? So had they gone abroad for study?
No, so I think I was the first one in the entire Khandan to go abroad. I think we had one cousin who went to US for studies, and I was the second one in the entire maybe Khandan of 60, 80, 100 people.
Right. And it was obviously an investment here, right? For your father?
My mother sold all her jewelry to make sure that I go. And I was not, again, I did not go to one of the best universities in England. I went to a college in London, a small college in London. And when I landed in London, that's when I decided what I want to study.
अच्छा, so you hadn't applied earlier. नहीं, अच्छा, you'd applied, but major decide नहीं किया था.
Major decide नहीं किया था. I went to a consultant. So first I went to a couple of consultants. They said 25 लाख रुपए लगेंगे, 40 लाख रुपए लगेंगे. And I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I can't afford this.
Yeah.
And then one of my very good friends now, he used to teach tuitions to my younger brother. And I was having a word with him. And he said, यार मैं तुम्हें एक बंदे के पास लेके जाता हूँ. Let's see what he says. He's a friend of mine. He's a consultant, education consultant. तो हम एक बड़े दूर जगह पे गए. We met the guy and he said आपका 8 से 10 लाख रुपए में काम हो जाएगा. So I went back to my mom and I said, listen, this is what the guy said. And she said, बेटा I have इतना तो है, इतना कर लूँगी मैं, इतनी ज्वेलरी मेरे पास है. Let me do it for you.
Right.
So I then did my IELTS. So उस टाइम मेरा पासपोर्ट भी एक्सपायर था. I got my new passport. I applied. तो उस ज़माने में वीज़ा पहले आता था. एडमिशन पहले नहीं आता था, पहले वीज़ा आता था. So I got my visa. And then I applied for a couple of universities. They accepted me. And when I landed in England, I really decided to do what I wanted.
What did you do?
So, again, it's a very funny story. I was very non-serious in life. And I did not really have too much direction as well. क्योंकि मेरी दोनों बड़ी जो थी वो बहनें थी and they were still studying. I did not have an elder brother. मेरे कोई ऐसे दोस्त नहीं थे. So I didn't really have a direction of what I wanted to do. So I went there. I'm sitting in London. And the guy said, okay, इधर भी जा सकते हो, इधर भी जा सकते हो. So I went to the first college and I opened their prospectus. Right? And I'm on the prospectus. I was like, this looks interesting. Hospitality management, hotel management. So I said, this is what I'm going to do.
अच्छा. And
since childhood, because again, my father used to fly with PIA.
Right.
So we used to do a lot of, we used to travel every year. So मैं बहुत ज़्यादा, बच्चों as a बच्चा I had, क्योंकि hotels में जाएंगे, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So I was like, I want to be a hotel manager. I like this life.
Interesting. But did you tell your family? Because Pakistan में hotel management isn't really a thing. It's becoming a thing now. But उस time के ऊपर तो hotel.
उस time पे, so my father को उस टाइम तक समझ आ गई थी कि इसको जो करना है ना वो करने दो.
हाँ.
क्योंकि इसको इंजीनियर या डॉक्टर बनाओगे तो ये कुछ भी नहीं कर पाएगा. So he was like, बेटा, you think there's future in this, मशवरा कर लो, ठीक है, if you want to do it, get on with it. Just do it. कुछ कर लो तो. So yeah, that's what I did. और उस टाइम पे you were right. The impression was कि अगर आप होटल मैनेजमेंट कर रहे हैं तो आप वेटर बनेंगे. Right. And this, for the next 5 years, I had to fight with this concept. And I did not want to be a waiter after my graduation. And my friends would say, तू waiter बनेगा, तू waiter बनेगा. And I was like, I did not really have direction. I just worked hard. I made my way through.
Did you perform well in England?
I did really well. So at that time, a couple of दो दफ़ा my father had huge losses in the stock market. 2 दफ़ा crash आ चुका था, अगर आपको याद हो. I think 2003 or 9 में आया था, या 2 or 9 में. So my father couldn't really support me anymore. So I had to make sure that I do multiple jobs to save up. So I never took money from that age. Of 18 years, I think 19 years, I never.
So I mean, straight up after you landed there, all of the tuition you paid yourself.
I have always, yeah. So I was doing 3 jobs. Initially, I was working for a souvenir shop. The first night I went I went to London. I wanted to start working. So I always wanted to start work, right? So I remember one of the guys that I met. He said कि आपके लिए मेरे पास एक नौकरी है, आप कल मुझे मिलेगा. वो मेरे कॉलेज में होता था, typical Pakistani guy. He said, बेटा कल आओ तुम, मैं तुम्हें sort करता हूँ.
So legit था, या was he thinking in his head कि यार इसको आधे में रखूँगा और cash?
So what happened? नहीं, वो तो understood था कि if you are a Pakistani, if you can't really speak English, so all my English was textbook English, right? जो हम लिख सकते थे.
Right.
But obviously when you land there, you don't have the confidence, you don't have the ability to speak. So I couldn't really communicate in English. So उसने कहा तुम कल आओ, देखते हैं क्या करना है. So he used to work for a taxi company, for a cab company. And उसने कहा कि रात को 12 बजे तुम हैमरस्मिथ के स्टेशन पे पहुंचो.
अच्छा.
अभी ये मत पूछो नौकरी क्या है. नौकरी है, नौकरी मिलेगी, तुम आ जाओ रात के 12 बजे.
Right.
तो मैं रात को ट्यूब यूज़ करनी भी नहीं आती थी, 1-2-4 दिन हुए थे लंदन में. So anyway, अपना नेविगेट करते करते आई गॉट टू द हैमरस्मिथ स्टेशन. आई स्टिल रिमेंबर February का टाइम था, तो आई थिंक द टेम्परेचर्स वर बिलो 5 degrees. So it's very very cold, or maybe it was even snowing at that point of time.
And there's no Google Maps to tell you.
No, there's no Google Maps. Did I have a phone? Yeah, I think by then I did have a phone, but there were no Google Maps. You just see the board outside the tube station and you say, okay, मैं यहाँ से यहाँ जाऊँगा, यहाँ से यहाँ जाऊँगा. पौना घंटा लगा के मैं उस स्टेशन पे गया. He met me there. He took me to a night club. And in front of night club, he said, यहाँ खड़े रहो, जो भी आएगा उससे बस आप नहीं पूछना है, do you need a taxi? ठीक है.
Right.
और जब अब मेरे अंदर इतना कॉन्फिडेंस भी नहीं था कि मैं काले से या गोरे से या I mean
essentially anyone
really non-desi, मैं उनसे ये पूछूं कि because there are a lot of different kind of people in London, and it is not obviously a very safe city.
It's a very intimidating environment, right? आप पाकिस्तान से जा रहे हैं, सीधा नाइट क्लब के ऊपर जाके लोग different zones में बाहर आ रहे हैं.
वहाँ different zone में लोग बाहर आ रहे हैं, डिस्को के अंदर से आवाज़ आ रही है, और मैं एक बड़े पाकिस्तानी एक्सेंट में पूछ रहा हूँ, सर डू यू नीड अ टैक्सी? ठीक है. एंड पीपल आर, बिकॉज दे ड्रंक, दे स्टार्टेड मेकिंग फन ऑफ मी. बड़ी वेयर यू फ्रॉम, हाउ ओल्ड आर यू? And I'm उस पे मैंने ऐसे लिख दिया, I am from Pakistan, I'm 18 years old, I just landed in London. And at the end of 1 hour, I was just so bad at it. The guy said, we'll let you know. So the other guy came, he was with a walkie-talkie, and he was very confident because obviously he'd been there for a number of years. And then I had to find my way home, and at I think 4 a.m., उस टाइम ट्रेन्स भी नहीं चलती, so I had to find a bus and make my way home. Took me a couple of hours, and those guys obviously never called me back.
Right.
So that was my first experience.
Do you remember the feeling at the time जब बंदा you were coming back and you were like, यार ये तो बहुत दुनिया की, जब बंदा नया इस एनवायरनमेंट में आता है और आपको फेलियर मिलता है पहला, तो आप सोचते हो यार ये मुझसे नहीं हो पाएगा, मैं आई एम वे इन ओवर माई हेड, व्हाट एम आई थिंकिंग?
Yeah, I was very excited. I as a child, I always wanted to work. The work was my thing. कि मैं कुछ भी करूँगा, I want to work. I want to do something.
मार पड़ जाएगी, फेल हो जाएंगे, तैयार है.
Next day I came, I called my dad. I said, this is what I went. He said, बेटा कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है, तुम ये क्या हरकतें कर रहे हो, तुम इसलिए तो नहीं भेजा था. The situation is not that bad. Just take your time, figure it out. I was like, ठीक है. My second job was so the same guy said, अच्छा तुम्हें नहीं रखा, let me figure you out. He was there for a number of years. He was trying to carry on with his studies just to keep his student visa going. यही होता है ना कि student visa पे time गुजारते हैं. So he said, चलो मैं तुम्हें sort out करूँगा, कोई मसला नहीं है. So next day he sent me to a Baba. The Baba used to own another taxi company, and he said, बेटा ये तुम्हारे पास leaflet, ये cards हैं, जाओ बांटो.
Right.
और तुम ये I think 1000 होते थे, ये 1000 leaflets करोगे तो तुम्हें 10 pound मिलेंगे.
अच्छा.
Right. उस टाइम हमारे लिए 10 पाउंड भी बहुत था. मैंने कहा हाँ यार, दिन के करूँगा तो 50 पाउंड बन जाएंगे, महीने के 200-300 पाउंड बन जाएंगे. सो आई थिंक दैट्स इनफ. माई फीस इज पेड, आई विल बी ओके टिल द एंड. So yeah, I remember in that winter cold, और लंदन का जो लंदन का जो 4-5 डिग्री होता है ना, it's very very cold because it's in Feb and March. It's very very windy.
Right.
Right.
So it feels like -20 over.
It's like -20. और उसमें मैं जा रहा हूँ बर्फ में, you're going to different places, you're putting the leaflet and the people are screaming, leave my house, do this, do that. It was a very challenging experience. So these are the first instances of me getting into the real world on my own. Yes, I had spent 3 days in a cadet college, but I was still 18. I was still a very young boy.
Yeah.
And I was on my own trying to explore the world. घर कॉल करके खबर दे देता था, I'm okay, don't worry about me.
Right.
So yeah, that's
और
how
साथ-साथ पढ़ाई चल रही है और
साथ साथ पढ़ाई
सही चल रही है.
पढ़ाई
मजा आ रहा है पढ़ाई.
yeah. I was good at it. I was good at it because I was enjoying it. It was hospitality management, front office management, how to talk to people, how to deal with revenue management, all that sort of thing. There was a lot of revenue management kind of a thing there, so I always really enjoyed talking about money, speaking about money, interacting with the rich. That's where it started.
Right.
So wahan se, yeah, I was okay at it.
And this was a 3-year program or
This was
foundation
a
plus 3?
foundation plus 3-year program.
Right.
It was a foundation plus 2-year program.
Okay.
Yeah. So
did you end up like doing your bachelor's or did you, क्योंकि I think वहाँ पर वो option होती है ना +1 master's वाली.
no, so how it worked with us was I did the foundation, which was mandatory because I was from the metric wala bacha, right? So GCSE वालों को नहीं करना होता. So I did my foundation, then I did 1 year, which was at the end of the 1 year I got diploma. Then I did the second year, which was the advanced diploma, and then I did my degree, which led me to the bachelor's. So the degree I got was BA Honours in International Hospitality and Tourism.
Right.
It was almost a 3.5 year program altogether.
Right. And you graduated in, I'm assuming, 2006?
2011.
2011.
Yeah. It's not very long ago.
Yeah.
So 2011, I was about 21 years old.
And so what was your first job?
So in these 3 years, I changed a number of jobs. So after my leafletting thing, I found as a sales boy, I got into a souvenir shop in central London. So this is where my sales skills started developing. I would meet people. I would try to sell different souvenirs. So it was a very small shop. I used to go there 3 to 4 times. This is when I'm studying full time in London.
Right.
और रात में मैं I joined Papa John's. मुझे वहाँ पे नौकरी मिल गई थी क्योंकि मुझे था होटल मैनेजमेंट कर रहा हूँ तो किसी रेस्टोरेंट में भी काम कर लो. So through somebody I got into Papa John's and I used to make pizzas.
Right.
So दिन में यूनिवर्सिटी जाता था, हफ्ते में 2 से 3 दिन जो है वो सोवेनियर्स बेचता था और रात में जो है मैं पिज़्ज़ास बनाता था और सुबह रात को 2-3 बजे आता था. Then so I did that for a couple of years. So initially I did my souvenir thing, then I moved to Papa John's. I moved there. I think I did it for a year and a half. And then eventually I got into a proper job when I was doing my last year of bachelor's in a call center. So I started selling on the phone. We used to sell electricity products. The UK में जैसे कराची में ना KESC इस तरह UK में multiple है. So there is multiple electricity companies. So we used to sell their contracts.
Right.
So that's what I got into. Initially, I was struggled, but eventually I was very, very good at it. When I graduated, I somehow lost my job because I was trying to do my own thing. I fought with them. I said, I'm going to do my own thing. And eventually I was fired from there. And now I was graduate and I didn't have a job.
Right. उस टाइम पे आई थिंक वीजा वैलिडिटी होती थी फॉर ईयर.
उस टाइम पे आपको डिग्री के बाद 2 साल मिलते थे, which we used to be called PSW, which was post study work.
Right.
So my post study work visa started and I did not have a job. So a friend of mine got me into Gap, the clothing
fashion retail.
Yeah, in center of Piccadilly. So again, I used to always think, yaar, I'm not doing what I really studied and I'm doing all sorts of things. In the middle, I did real estate, lettings. So मैंने दुनिया का, I didn't think कोई काम होगा जो छोड़ा होगा.
And you mentioned earlier on, you said you were a spoiled brat in Pakistan, privileged with a driver and a cook maybe, and all of those things. In Pakistan, even today, the world has really shifted, but still, एक average middle class kid, मैं तो ज़्यादा privileged भी नहीं करूँगा. क्योंकि पाकिस्तान और जनरली डेवलपिंग इकोनॉमीज में हेल्पर्स इज अ थिंग. इट डजंट नेसेसरली, यू डोंट हैव टू बी अ हाई नेटवर्थ टू हैव अ हेल्पर. एवरेज मिडिल क्लास किड जो है वो एस्पिरेशनली अपने दिमाग में यही होता है कि यार मैं अब पापा के पैसे पे पूरी ज़िंदगी पढ़ूंगा, पढ़ने के बाद मैं कोई नौकरी करूंगा और इवेंचुअली मैं अफसर बन के एक अपर मिडिल क्लास में चला जाऊंगा. राइट. एंड दे inherently look down upon जो lower middle income jobs होती हैं. So these are essentially sort of blue collar jobs, right? जिसमें कोई ऐसा स्किल नहीं है, कोई भी बंदा फिट हो सकता है. कपड़े बेचने हैं, पाकिस्तान में बहुत सारे ब्रांड रिटेल स्टोर्स वगैरह हैं. आपके सेल्स की जॉब्स हैं, मतलब टैक्सी हेल करना इज़ अ वेरी वेरी बॉटम ऑफ द फूड चेन जॉब. हाउ डिड यू रेकनसाइल, हाउ वाज दैट लाइक फॉर यू कि आप एक बहुत डिफरेंट एनवायरनमेंट से उठ के एक बहुत डिफरेंट एनवायरनमेंट में जा रहे हैं. बहुत सारे लोग हैं वो जाते हैं बाहर जाके कहते हैं जी मैंने ये भी किया, मैंने ये भी किया, मैंने ये भी किया. But then it really takes you abroad to be able to do all of those things when the same person in Pakistan would never be doing that, right? Why do you think that discrepancy exists?
I think दो चीज़ें हैं. एक तो पाकिस्तान में हम लोग we always say कि जी to the kids we say पढ़ाई कर लो, bachelor's कर लो, foreign master's कर लो. We don't really focus on real skills, right? So what happened with me was, because as I keep saying, I always wanted to work and I didn't care what work it was. And I was thrown in the deep end and I was told कि बेटा पहले साल की फीस है, दूसरे साल की का कुछ नहीं मिलेगा, अपना आप खुद करो. And my father was at that point of time financially struggling as well. कुछ major losses हो चुके थे. Again उनकी इतनी मर्जी भी नहीं थी कि मैं जाऊँ. It was my mom who really sent me and she said don't worry, जाओ, अल्लाह बेहतर करेगा, you know, Allah is a provider, you just go and figure it out. So I was thrown out of the comfort zone. I did not have a choice, and I feel anytime you are in that particular zone where you have to make ends meet, really, then you pull through. You do what you got to do, right? So I tried left, right, center on trying different things, and in the end I did it.
And while you were trying those things, you didn't feel like कि ये क्या है, ये मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ अपनी ज़िंदगी के साथ?
होता था.
अच्छा.
But I enjoyed every moment of it.
Right.
The first time I went to, as I said, Papa John's, I was told to wash the staff washroom.
Right.
And that washroom was this big.
Right.
And I was almost throwing up, right? In Pakistan, again, mashallah से दो नौकर है घर पे, ड्राइवर है, शेफ है, ये है, वो है.
कभी किया ही नहीं है सब.
अभी ये सब क्या आपने अपना कमरा नहीं बनाया, you know? Other than the time I was in the cadet college. So yeah, it was a big lifestyle change for me. The first accommodation that I got into was with a 90-year-old guy, Pakistani uncle, जिनकी पूरी family had passed away, and he was paying £45 a week to stay in that room, and I was sharing the room with him. तो बिल्कुल ही मेरे लिए जो है ना बहुत मेजर you know, and there's so many small stories. I'm sure जो लोग लंदन में रहे हैं या यूएस में या जाके रहते हैं, there's so many stories that, you know, if I start telling you now, this will be a 10-hour.
How was that with the 90-year-old uncle?
With the 90-year-old uncle, Kashmiri guy, you know, there's many Kashmiris there, and he was like, but I'm you know, he was a normal guy, like he lost all his family, so we were paying guests at a Mirpuri family who used to live downstairs. So एक ऊपर हमने कमरा लिया हुआ था, एक अंकल रहते थे. उस वजह से मैंने थोड़ी नमाजें पढ़ ली, क्योंकि all he was doing was going to the mosque and coming back. तो उस वजह से मैंने उनके साथ थोड़ी नमाजें पढ़ ली.
Do you think experiences like these are what made you the person that you are today?
Absolutely.
It's these basic life, आप डिग्रियाँ जो भी कर लें, आप जो भी स्ट्रक्चर में कर लें, but it's these human experiences that really help you.
Yeah, so that's what I believe in, real life skills. और please अपने बच्चों को घर से निकालें, you know, send them, make them work, you know, make them exposed to themselves to real life situations. Really, this is what happened with me. This is what developed me. Put them in the deep end.
And see how they grow.
This is what made me. You know, I have a younger brother, and I spoil him too much. He's mashallah said 26 years old, and he's not been through the same instances that I've been through, and I can see the difference. कि क्योंकि मैं उस zone में डाला गया था, there's a difference of a kind of person I am when I was, let's say 23, 24, and when, you know, he's 23, 24. So yes,
बहुत impact पड़ता है.
बहुत impact पड़ता है.
What did you do after Gap? How long were you at Gap? And then
I was there for 3 or 4 months. Then I got hired by a small little hotel in Brentford, which is Essex. थोड़ा सा लंदन से बाहर है.
So that was your first proper.
For 3 months, I got fired. अगेन बड़ा मैं यूँ उल्टा डुल्टा पहुँचा हूँ.
इस बार क्या हुआ था?
इस बार उन्होंने कहा कि जी आपकी हमने you're not good enough. You're not good enough, you gotta go.
Okay.
उस टाइम पे आई थिंक ऑलमोस्ट 2012 आ गया, तो 2013 में लंदन में ओलंपिक्स हो रहे थे, सो देयर वाज अ लॉट ऑफ रिक्रूटमेंट ड्राइव्स. आई वांटेड टू गेट बैक टू लंदन, क्योंकि अब ये मेरी थी कंफर्ट जोन के भी बाहर में आ चुका था, एंड आई वाज एट अ प्लेस where you don't find any halal food, you don't find
Right.
any Pakistani people, you don't find anyone. It's all Gora. So for 6 months, I was a complete Gora, 3 to 6 months, living with a couple of French guys. And the French smoke a lot, so they would be smoking up all the time.
Right.
And I'm living with them, and it was a complete टोपी में एक different जहाज उड़ा रहा था.
Right.
तो खैर, anyway, this is where I got, it was a learning of a different kind.
Right.
But in 6 months, I learned so much. I got back into London. I was hired again while I was being fired or still on probation in a central London hotel in Mayfair. तो वहाँ पे फिर मैंने अपना जो बाकी PSW का टाइम था 1.5-2 साल वो पूरे गुजारे. और फिर I did not want to come back. I was now by this time I was comfortable. I had friends. I had some family. I was very sort of comfortable. But now my visa's ended. अगर
नहीं, तो वो एक्सटेंड नहीं हो सकता अगर गवर्नमेंट
एक्सटेंड नहीं हो सकता. इफ सो उस टाइम पे जो रूल था, इफ यू वांटेड टू एक्सटेंड दैट वीजा, आपको 50,000 पाउंड की इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी पड़ेगी.
अच्छा.
तो जिन्होंने वाकई रहना था वो तो दे फाउंड अ वे, उन्होंने स्टूडेंट वीजास एक्सटेंड कर लिए, दिस एंड दैट. बट आई वाज लाइक नो, आई कांट. आई ट्राइड डूइंग अ फ्यू थिंग्स. और एक वो बड़ा कॉन्सेप्ट है कि शादी कर लो, तो फिर तो जगह बनेगा नहीं. अभी आई एम 21, 22, आई एम नॉट डूइंग दैट.
Yeah.
तो एट दैट पॉइंट आई डिसाइडेड कि आई वांट टू गो बैक. आई एम अ ग्रेजुएट एंड मैंने तो बहुत काम कर लिया लंदन में, 4-5 साल गुजार लिया. मैं तो
पाकिस्तान में
जाऊँगा तो
नहीं होगा
2 लाख रुपए की सैलरी, उस टाइम 2 लाख.
हाँ.
तो जब मैं पाकिस्तान गया तो आप नौकरी नहीं है. सो अ फ्रेंड ऑफ माइन रेकमेंडेड मी टू, उसने कहा होटल मैनेजमेंट करके आए हो, मैं तुम्हें गाइड करता हूँ. वो एरिजोना ग्रिल है एक मेरे दोस्त का, वहाँ पे जाओ उससे बात करो. मैं वहाँ गया, उसने कहा हाँ ठीक है आ जाए कल से. 25,000 रुपये, 25,000 रुपये, यू विल बी द मैनेजर, यू विल गेट 25,000 रुपये. एंड एट दैट पॉइंट 25,000 रुपये में भी वो 200-300 पाउंड्स. यूके में मैं कुछ ना कुछ करके 1,000-1,500 उस टाइम पे बना लेता था.
Right.
2-2, 3-3, 4-4 काम करते हैं. लाइक नो, दैट्स व्हेन आई डिसाइडेड कि आई वांट टू मूव टू दुबई.
Right.
I tried left, right, center. पाकिस्तान में कोई काम मेरा नहीं बना. तो at that point I decided कि जी maybe perhaps at this time it's not worth coming back. My heart was always in Pakistan. So while I was in Dubai, in London, while I was in, doing these several jobs, I always wanted to come back and I always wanted to start something of my own. But I was so disappointed. I said, you know what, maybe after a few years I'll try again, but now I need to go. And then again, I had some family circumstances, personal challenges. I was, at this point, I was the sole owner of the, family, so breadwinner of the family. So I had no choice. I had to go back.
Yeah.
We did not have any other sources of fund. मेरी दोनों बहनों की शादियाँ हो गई थी. So I was the sole breadwinner of the family because of certain, as I said, challenges. So then I decided कि मैं जा रहा हूँ Dubai.
Right.
So that's when in 2013 I moved to Dubai.
Interesting. So दुबई में पहले तो ये बताएं, how did you, it was like a work seeker visa and you just sort of landed in Dubai?
Yeah, so I took, so I was lucky. My older sister, she had moved to Dubai by then.
Right.
She got married in 2003. This is 2013.
Right.
So
Has been here for a decade.
So her husband had found a job, I think 2009 or 10. So they were here since a number of years when I came. तो मैं एक तरीके से lucky था. I got a visit visa for 30 days. So I landed at their place. I stayed there for 30 days. So it was a visitor's visa.
Right. And यहाँ पर what was the job search like?
So the job search for me was each and everywhere. Hotels. क्योंकि मैं obviously initially.
I really want to expand on this because I do know for two reasons. First, Middle East is booming and I do know Pakistani halat are such these days that a lot of people are asking me as well. कि यार Middle East में opportunities, how does one really explore opportunities? Obviously आज modern day में तो LinkedIn है, this and that, ये वो, but more often than not LinkedIn में अगर एक बंदा पाकिस्तान से अप्लाई कर रहा है तो वो इंडिया से भी कर रहा है, वो 50 लाख लोग कर रहे हैं. And so मेरी general recommendation यही होती है कि why don't you get a visa, इतनी कोई कॉस्ट नहीं, कोई जानने वाला जनरली होता ही है, वीज़ा ही कॉस्ट लगाओ, टिकट ही कॉस्ट लगाओ, एंड देन स्टे विद समवन and then see what opportunities exist for you. What was your experience like, and what would your recommendation be for a person who's coming in completely blindsided?
Very, very, very tough, but doable. उसके बाद आपकी you have faith. You gotta have the faith at the end of the day. I always had the faith कि the provider alhamdulillah is the God Allah Ta'ala करेंगे कुछ ना कुछ. So I always had this faith. The faith is very important. Because after faith comes the hard work, and you gotta work your, you gotta work.
And in your case, I mean, so you knew कि अच्छा यार मेरी होटल मैनेजमेंट की डिग्री है, मेरा सर्टेन एक्सपीरियंस है, एक CV आपने बनाया है, और अब आप यहाँ पे लैंड किए हैं. हाउ डज वन इवन गो अबाउट कि यार अच्छा पूरा शहर है, हसलिंग बसलिंग है, बट मुझे क्या पता जॉब्स किधर होंगी. तो मैं पिछले, क्योंकि मुझे पता था मैं दुबई शायद आऊँ, मैं पिछले 1-1.5 महीने से while I was in Pakistan, I was sending emails, maybe every day I would apply for 100 jobs. Right.
And I never got answered. So maybe I did 3,000 emails in 1.5 months or 2 months before coming. I never got
an answer. Yeah.
मुझे सबने यही बोला कि आ जाओ, आओगे तो इंशाल्लाह कुछ ना कुछ हो जाएगा. The problem I saw when I got here was there was a difference between Pakistani and non-Pakistani. तो सबसे पहले पूछते थे Pakistani, okay, we will get back to you. Right. And so many times I would get so furious क्योंकि अभी मैं 5 साल लंदन में गुजार के आया था, where equal opportunities. CV में आप ये नहीं लिख सकते कि आप पाकिस्तान से या टिम्बकटू से हैं. You cannot write your gender. Right. And now I'm in a place they're asking me, Yalla, where are you from? Are you from Pakistan? We'll get back to you. That kind of a thing. And I'm furious, and my sister is like, this is normal, this happens, why are you getting so furious? और उस टाइम पे मैं बहुत फेयर अपॉर्चुनिटीज यार ये क्या ज़्यादती है कि मैं पाकिस्तानी हूँ तो मुझे नौकरी नहीं देंगे. तो आई वेंट टू लिटरली मे बी परहैप्स 4-5 मतलब 100 होटल थे. तो जो मुझे नज़र आया, मैं ये तो नहीं कहूँगा मैं 500 होटल्स में गया, लेकिन जितने नज़र आए आई वेंट physically to places. So my brother-in-law is a banker, mashallah say, so he had some connections. He sent me everywhere. But for 20 days, I was very unlucky. Then I found one job in the Palace downtown, a very central hotel in next to Burj Khalifa. Funny, I got there married last year.
Acha,
same place. I got it right in front of Burj Khalifa. So wahan pe the guy offered me 2,500 dirhams job, and I was like, no man, that's too low. 2,500 dirhams.
नहीं, but 2014 की बात है, right? 2013 की बात. 2,500 पे तो यार कमरा भी नहीं मिलेगा आपको.
2,500 पे उस टाइम भी कमरा नहीं मिला.
हाँ.
तो I was like, कर लूँ? Well, like that's cutting myself too low. So then I said, नहीं यार, नहीं हो सकता. Sorry, I'm sorry. And अच्छा मेरे ज़हन में मैं बहुत बड़ा आदमी हूँ, क्योंकि मैं UK से ग्रेजुएट कौन करके आता है, दुबई. तो आई वाज लाइक यार 10,000 की तो मिलनी चाहिए. बट दैट वाज अ रियलिटी चेक फॉर मी कि 2-3 हज़ार से ही आपको शुरू करना पड़ेगा इफ यू आर यंग, क्योंकि मैं यंग भी था. आई वाज
राइट
in 2003 I was 21-22 साल का, right? I was 89, so 2013 में I would be about 23-24 years old. So anyway, I kept on trying, no luck. On the 30th day, I think, on the 25th day, I got a call for interview. तो मैं अप्लाई करता था. there's a platform called Dubizzle, you might have heard of it.
Right.
तो Dubizzle उस टाइम बहुत चलता था, LinkedIn इतना नहीं चलता था. और Dubizzle पे जो आती थी
जॉब्स भी होती थी, क्योंकि मैंने
आई थिंक अभी भी होती है,
के लिए देखा है, बट
अभी भी होती है.
अच्छा.
बट नाउ there's only the, I would say, the basic jobs.
Right.
उस टाइम पे फिर भी थोड़ी बेहतर होती थी. तो I remember the advertisement was, we are looking for a good looking pretty girl to be the guest services agent of our property, which was a private members club in the IFC.
Right.
और मैं क्योंकि दिन में 100 जॉब्स अप्लाई करता था, मैंने वो भी करती. राइट. तो खैर एनीवे मेरा 25वें या 26वें दिन मुझे वहाँ से इंटरव्यू कॉल आई. I went there and they were like, we were looking for a lady but your profile suits.
Right.
आपने ग्रेजुएशन बाहर से की हुई है and we are looking for a person with hospitality experience. मैं 2-3 होटल्स में लंदन में काम कर चुका था. This was a private members club,
right,
which basically has the who's who of the city of Dubai, and mashallah say Dubai has big who's who,
right,
as members there. And I went to my brother-in-law and I said, yes, interview. I was like, yaar, excellent starting point, try and get in. And the GM there interviewed me, the HR interviewed me, and they said, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be the GM. And she's like, the 22 saal ka bacha, I want to be the GM. I was like, yeah, you asked me where do you want to be in 5 years, I want to be the GM.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, I got back home and I'm really excited. 4 or 5 days, no answer. I think 30th day I had to go back. Night of the 29th, I got a call. KG, we are happy to, have you.
How much were they paying if you're...
So initially they were paying me 4,000 dirhams,
right.
Or maybe 4,500. And they were giving me my own apartment, which is a big...
Right. So cost of living is the primary cost.
Yeah.
Right?
And they were giving me transport back and forth. And because it was a hospitality organization, my food was covered. So total package came to about 7,000 dirham, which was somewhat acceptable.
Yeah. Survival तो है ना पूरा.
उसमें से 3,000 मुझे घर भेजने थे. मेरे पास 1,000 dirham था. Plus मेरे पास accommodation थी. So I was like, what, in the end I will manage. I'll do something else. So that was me starting in Dubai in 2013. And I eventually joined I got back to Pakistan, उन्होंने मुझे visa भेजा. फिर मैं आ रहा था, I got offloaded because Pakistan में protector तो अब मेरी कल को रिपोर्टिंग है, बड़ी मुश्किल से मुझे नौकरी मिली है और मैं कॉल करके कह रहा हूँ कि I got offloaded. वो एक पूरा प्रोसेस है, पर प्रोटेक्टर कैसे लगवाया, 2 दिन में, और पहले आबशार फैसल में यहाँ जाके प्रोटेक्टर लगवाए, फिर बैंक में जाके पैसे दें, फिर दैट्स अनदर स्टोरी, अनदर टॉपिक. हम लोग क्या करते हैं अपने लोगों के साथ. खैर, सो आई गॉट बैक, आई गॉट माई अकोमोडेशन एंड द जॉब वॉज रियली रियली बेसिक फॉर मी. उन्होंने मुझे दरवाजे के बाहर खड़ा कर दिया. मेरी शिफ्ट सुबह 5 बजे शुरू होती थी. मैं स्टाफ वैन में आता था और 5 बजे, क्योंकि 5 बजे द क्लब वुड ओपन फॉर ब्रेकफास्ट.
राइट.
इट वाज अ मेंबर्स क्लब, इट वाज नॉट अ एंटरटेनमेंट क्लब. सुबह से वहाँ पे मीटिंग शुरू हो जाते. दे हैड लाइक अबाउट 10 मीटिंग रूम्स. दे हैड इवेंट्स गोइंग ऑन, इवेंट्स लाइक बिजनेस इवेंट्स, नेटवर्किंग इवेंट्स. सो 5 बजे से जिम शिम खुल जाता था. वहाँ पे जिम भी था, अकोमोडेशन भी थी. सो आई वुड बी 5 o'clock एट द डोर greeting members, good morning, good morning, good morning, and people coming in. And all I needed to do was good morning, wear a nice suit and say good morning. This was my job. And 1 month later, I'm like, what the hell am I doing with my life? But I can't get anywhere. This is I got to do because I got to send the income home. I can't quit anymore.
Yeah, वो luxury नहीं है कि मेरा काम मेरी मर्जी का.
नहीं भाई, गुड मॉर्निंग करना है सुबह 5 बजे जाके. सुबह 5 बजे जाके यार. सोचिए 4 बजे उठ के, I had to take the staff van at 4:30 and be there at 5 o'clock. But I had a good time there. I got 3 महीने बाद मैंने उनसे बोला, यार, give me some work. Come on, give me some real work. So they put me in the membership department. I got promoted. They said, we do understand you are beyond what you're doing, and we are going to promote you. So they promoted me as a member relations manager. Now I had to make sure the members are being well taken care of. And then 2 months later, further down, because I was very good in sales, so I used to make the people spend money. They put me as a membership manager, and my salary went up to 15,000. I was getting paid commissions, and as a 23-year-old guy, 20,000 dirhams with commissions, house paid. Now I'm balling.
Yeah.
Right. So now
So the good mornings are really paid off.
it eventually paid off.
Yeah.
And then I bought my car. I bought my first own place. I moved out of the the staff accommodation. So this is now me at 25. और 6-8-10 साल की स्ट्रगल के बाद I have now find my feet slowly. I'm still in the process. It's still been only 1 year in Dubai, but now at least I have 15,000 dirham मैं महीने के बना रहा हूँ. I'm able to send money home. So yeah, that's my story of how I started.
And so how does one go from sort of, hospitality, and you're in Dubai doing hospitality and you're growing there. So how does one go from that to sort of essentially setting up an alternate nationality, relocating people physically or digitally?
So again, I never wanted to stop growing.
Right.
So all my life, I've decided that I'm going to move in the growing path. I'm not going to
complacent
नहीं होना.
चाहे जितनी अच्छी गाड़ी आ जाए जितना अच्छा.
वो कर लिया, 1 साल किया, फिर 2 साल किया, अब 3 साल के बाद मैं बोर हो गया. मैंने कहा यार, I got to do something big. In this particular place, again, this comes to power of networking. I really met the who's who of Dubai. people who own banks, people who own big businesses. And I was very always, sort of fascinated by them. I would sit down with them. And one of my things was I had to interact with them, right? So I would sit down with them and I would ask them, sir, how did you do this? How did you do this? How did you do this? And I would listen to their success stories and then say, ek din mujhe bhi ye sab karna hai, right? So anyway, I became friends with a member who was from Canada, Canadian Lebanese guy, and he used to run a training and development company. So eventually he said, okay, why don't you're great at business development, you're a great sales guy, and you're a great customer service guy, why don't you work? And honestly, I was not married to one industry. अगर पढ़ा था तो generally हमारे यहाँ perception ये है कि आपने एक चीज़ पढ़ ली तो you have to do it for the rest of your life. I was like, I don't mind. So I joined his company 3 years later. It's a very well-known learning and development firm as a business development consultant.
No, so they do basically, they help B2B, like corporate.
Help B2B. They would teach them soft skills, leadership skills, sales training. So I would be the guy to go and sell these trainings, right? I joined this place. I was not great at it again. So I was very good at what I was doing at the club thing, sales, interacting on one-to-one level. Now I was doing B2B sales. I was making proposals. I was going to Citibank. I was going to Standard Chartered and saying, we're selling trainings. We're going to train your people. And they're like, who are you? And then certain times I got lucky because I did have a very supportive management. They would go into meetings with me and then try to close the deal. But I didn't enjoy it. And at this moment, I realized that I'm more of a B2C guy than B2B guy. Because B2B, mein, you have approvals, you have this department approval, this guy, in the end, the CEO signs. It was a long process for me. And I was like, in Capital Club, I used to sell a membership and I would make good money. And at this stage, this is 2015, 16, again, a couple of people from that club, I had very strong links to the place, so I used to come and go. They were looking for second passport and they asked me, do you know any company who does second passports? And I, again, because of my network and I knew so many people, I said, yeah, I know a company that does second passport. I know a guy there. He's one of the directors. Arton Capital, that's the company I work for today as a vice president. So I connected the two. And that's when I found out that passport bhi koi cheez hoti hai. The guy, Pakistani guy, ended up getting Cyprus passport, which was €2 million passport to have.
Is that a Eurozone passport?
It used to be. Now it's closed. Europe mein, aap Cyprus mein €2 million property kharide, which is a huge deal. I was like, itne paise bhi hote? So I helped the two connect and he ended up buying the passport, and in my bank is the referral fee, which is
a substantial amount.
A substantial amount. €2 million की से property ली थी.
Right.
And I'm like, bro, ये क्या training बेच रहा हूँ मैं? I used to cold call, right? I used to make 100 calls a day. Do you want trainings? Do you want trainings? Do you want? And I'm like, I want to be. And I was always so fascinated with those guys at the club, and I always wanted to go back. So 1.5 years was very tight for me. I didn't really enjoy it. B2B was not my thing. Studies were never my thing. Now they're asking me to design a sales leadership academy. And I'm like, I'm not studious. I'm more of a, entrepreneurial guy. I'm into sales. I'm into interacting with people. So there saal baad, this very company who I had referred, one client and a couple of others who asked me about second passport, they approached me. They said, what do you want to do? And I was like, I would love to join you guys. This is what I want to do. And they said, okay, we're looking for a business development person. Why don't you join us? So in 2018, I joined them as a junior sales executive.
Right.
Today in 2003, I've had multiple promotions and this, that, and now I'm, mashallah say, vice president. Initially, I looked after Pakistan market. उस टाइम हम जब लोगों को बताते थे कि सेकंड पासपोर्ट कोई चीज़ होती है तो लोग समझते थे स्कैम है ये क्या तुम पैसे लेके पासपोर्ट दे दोगे. ये तो अभी पिछले 2-3 साल में चीज़ पॉपुलर हो गई है कि यू कैन गेट अ सेकंड पासपोर्ट.
वो उस टाइम लगता था कि आप कुछ 2 नंबर कर रहे हैं, तो प्रिंट करके आप पासपोर्ट दे देंगे, बाद में फंस जाए.
करेक्ट, बिकॉज इन इमिग्रेशन टिपिकली फॉर हंड्रेड्स ऑफ इयर्स देयर हैज बीन अ लॉट ऑफ स्कैम. आप इंडियन मूवीज देखते हैं, इमिग्रेशन के नाम पे. तो व्हेन आई यूज्ड टू गो टू पीपल obviously we had a lot of interest from Pakistan. So there were a lot of people who understood this, who needed this. But then if you want to promote something and you are going out to people, you are telling about second passport, they're like, what is this? Though it was a tough one. I developed Pakistan market for this particular brand. And eventually I started covering Pakistan and the Middle East, and then Pakistan, Middle East and Africa. I was sent to Nigeria, South Africa. I did business development in several African countries. Got to travel a lot in the last, 5-7 years.
How big is this market? Particularly अगर मैं पाकिस्तान की बात करूँ, one would assume कि पाकिस्तान में तो यार गरीब सी country है, underdeveloped सी, तो क्या ही market होगी?
Obviously this market deals with perhaps the top 2%, but आप कितनी हमारी आवाम है? 25 करोड़, उसका 2% लगा लें तो it's a substantial amount of people.
Right.
Before it was considered, पाकिस्तान में एक concept है कि जिसने second passport ले लिया या जो मुल्क से बाहर चला गया वो गद्दार है. So a lot of people, अगर आप देखें जो वहाँ पे है, वो कहते हैं जो दुबई में है वो लोग सही नहीं है. वो मसला है इन लोगों में, या करप्ट पैसे हैं, या इस तरह के एक परसेप्शन है. इसी तरह सेकंड पासपोर्ट्स का भी है. इफ़ यू हैव अ सेकंड पासपोर्ट, you're not, या तो आपका पैसा legit नहीं है, या you're doing something dodgy. However, now people have realized that they need to diversify. They need to protect their families. They need to protect their wealth. They need to make their taxes more, they need to optimize their taxes. And now we have a huge interest from Pakistan. There are a number of people who come to me and say, we're looking for a second residency or a second passport. So this concept of citizenship by investment is now very popular in Pakistan.
Generally, अगर मैं आपसे पूछूं कि what's the variation? So for people who are hoping to, yeah, rather, I'll let you give me a summary, but what does it look like from anything as simple as कि यार मैंने golden visa करना है, so essentially not a nationality but a residency of sorts, to something like कि जी मैंने let's say again Cyprus या पुर्तगाल या कहीं का पासपोर्ट ले, पुर्तगाल ने I think पासपोर्ट बंद किया हुआ है, बट मैंने कोई बड़ा एक्सपेंसिव किस्म का लेना है, या मैंने बिजनेस है. तो जो मूवमेंट वाली चीज़ है, और पर्टिकुलरली पाकिस्तान में रिसेंटली ये बहुत ज़्यादा पॉपुलराइज हुई है. एक आपकी सिटीजनशिप बाय इन्वेस्टमेंट है, एक आपकी है कि जी मैंने फॉर एग्जांपल यूएस जाके मैंने बिजनेस सेटअप करना है, मैंने
करेक्ट
EB2 लेके E2 लेके मैंने इन्वेस्टर वीज़ा टाइप का सिचुएशन करनी है. इट्स fascinating कि पाकिस्तान में most people don't even have, like they, for them the only way to move out of Pakistan is कि या तो मैं मास्टर्स करूँगा और मैं फिर उसके थ्रू जाऊँगा, या मैं कोई जॉब मेरी लग जाएगी मैं उसके थ्रू जाऊँगा. What are the opportunities and options?
Opportunities and options in terms of, देखिए, my work is very specific and targeted towards a niche market. Right. So as I said, we deal with the 2%ers.
So let's talk about that. 2%.
Okay, let's stick to that, and then I'll come to the mass market, because slowly this is becoming a mass market product, but still very expensive. When I did it, when I started it, dollar was perhaps, I can't remember, 80 to 100 rupees a dollar. Now it's 300. So even for the well-to-do people, this thing has become very expensive. But essentially there are two kinds of programs. One is residency and one is citizenship. Most, again, depending on what मतलब लोगों को क्या ज़रूरत है, we guide them on, certain products. But again, there are residency programs, there are citizenship programs, and there are residency programs which lead to a passport. In some programs you need to move, in some programs you don't need to move. Dubai ne abhi golden, देखिए, around the world, countries need investments. देखिए, countries need talent, and in our country, I think we like to lose talent and lose the business people. Yeah. So when they go out to look for options, these countries really they're inviting. Jo cheapest, I would say, the citizenship program starts from $100,000, right? तो बिजनेसमैन जब देखता है कि मैं साल के 10 करोड़ 20-25 करोड़ 30 करोड़ बनाता हूँ, और इस 2 करोड़ के पासपोर्ट से मेरी जो मोबिलिटी है वो बढ़ जाएगी, तो कहाँ के फॉर एग्जाम्पल फॉर डोमिनिका इट स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम $100,000. अगेन इसके कैरेबियन के नाम पे बहुत ज़्यादा स्कैम भी हो रहा है, but the official prices they start from $100,000
per individual.
per individual, and then for family their packages $150,000, $140,000.
And Dominica में मेरा ख्याल है यूरोपियन यूनियन के एक्सेस है.
Dominica has access to European Union. Yeah, these are Commonwealth islands. 25th, 26th strongest passport in the world.
Right.
So these are pretty good travel. So we need to understand a few things. Why people get second passport? तो उसमें एक चीज़ हमारे लिए पाकिस्तानियों के लिए ट्रैवल मोबिलिटी है, बट रिमेंबर दीज पासपोर्ट्स आर बॉट अराउंड द वर्ल्ड.
Right.
So one is travel mobility, but a very small part is travel mobility. A lot of people get it. For example, मेरे पास बहुत सारे American clients हैं. They're American passport holders. They come to me and they say, we want to give up the American passport. So I have so many clients, Pakistanis, who have given up American passports, gotten these passports. Then I have had clients from Romania, Hungary, European Union, Poland, जिनको कैरेबियन के पासपोर्ट चाहिए because now there is war in Europe and they're worried कि अगर हमारे वहाँ पे अभी भी लॉ है कि अगर जंग हो जाती है we'll be called to fight. And there's this guy, he's $10 million investments in US, big tech guy. It's like, I'm Romanian. You know, if we go into war, I'll be asked to come and fight. I have 3 kids to look after.
Yeah.
He lives in Dubai. So I'm going to give up my European passport and I'll stick to my Antiguan passport. So I got a Caribbean passport for him. So it's not, for me, it's not just stuck to Pakistanis. It's people from everywhere. And it's not just travel mobility. It could be security of your family. Like in this case, it could be business opportunities. It could be, for example, a lot of Indians come to us. ट्रैवल मोबिलिटी उनके लिए है, प्लान बी है, टैक्स है, ये सारी चीज़ें होती हैं.
और इंडियंस का तो आई थिंक सेकंड पासपोर्ट वाला सीन भी नहीं है, सो दे आर एसेंशियली लेटिंग गो ऑफ देयर इंडियन पासपोर्ट.
वेल मोस्टली यस, बट नॉट ऑलवेज. सो देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल हु कीप बोथ.
There is a work around there as well.
And then they keep it, don't disclose it. So many people in Dubai, they have second passports. पाकिस्तान की भी 19 मुल्कों के साथ ट्रीटी है.
Right.
Which is not a very popular, it's not something well known, but पाकिस्तान की 19 मुल्कों के साथ ट्रीटी है जिसका पासपोर्ट रख सकते हैं, which is very strange. या तो आप अलाउ करें या ना अलाउ करें, but we have treaty with 19 countries, उनके आप पासपोर्ट रख सकते हैं. So any country that does a second passport, in our case it's the Caribbeans, Portugal, there's some other countries like Turkey, we don't have a treaty with anyone.
So effectively जो आपने लिया हुआ है वो आपने खामोशी से लिया हुआ है. आप पाकिस्तान से दुबई आप जाएंगे अपने पाकिस्तानी पासपोर्ट पे, फिर दुबई से आप आगे.
ये भी सब्जेक्टिव है. Generally we don't tell people कि आप second passport लें या ना लें. That's obviously their own choice.
Right.
We don't tell people to give up or to keep their passport. और कुछ लोग करते हैं, वो पाकिस्तान से डोमिनिकन या कैरेबियन पासपोर्ट भी यूज़ करते हैं. They're like, we don't care. But knowing our system,
things can go up and down.
Things can go up and down. So we leave it to them. We don't guide them on this. This is their own choice. कहाँ से किस तरह वो.
Makes sense. And then tell me about the तो आपने कहा कि जिसका buy in है 100,000 का, and then it can go up to ज़ाहिर है जो investment वाली है वो तो then.
So there are multiple options. In certain countries it's a donation. In certain countries you can make a real estate investment. उसके ऊपर उनकी फिर अपनी गवर्नमेंट फीसेस होती हैं, बैकग्राउंड चेक फीसेस होती हैं. One thing that the countries do make sure is कि आप your source of wealth is clean. आपके ऊपर कोई civil cases नहीं है, कोई criminal cases नहीं है, क्योंकि obviously as you can imagine we have people from all kinds of backgrounds, some very dodgy people also approaching us. We don't assist them. We only assist the clean people with source of funds. And make sure it's only because this passport can also be used as a backdoor to Europe. So European Union has a lot of regulations and concerns about these passports, and these passports now are getting very much more difficult to obtain. अब तो इनफैक्ट इन्होंने मैंडेटरी इंटरव्यूज भी शुरू कर दिए. सो इन फ्यूचर यू विल सी. अभी तो है ना कि आप दुबई में बैठे हैं, पासपोर्ट अप्लाई कर दें. अभी इन्होंने सब ने मैंडेटरी इंटरव्यू शुरू कर दिए. So virtually there will be an interview, and eventually maybe in 6 months time you will need to go to Caribbean to collect the passport. So ये जो concept आया था citizenship by investment पिछले 5 साल में हमने उसको इतना पॉपुलर कर दिया, फिर हमने उसकी उसमें में हम एज एन आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट अस पाकिस्तानीज, हमने उसकी इतनी बैंड बजा दी है कि अब वो उसको बंद कर रहे हैं एंड देयर सेइंग दैट मैंडेटरी इंटरव्यू से स्टार्ट करके फिजिकल स्टे रिक्वायरमेंट्स की तरफ भी आएंगे. सो
ज़ाहिर है वो डिमांड बढ़ी है तो दे ऑब्वियसली हैव टू ऑप्टिमाइज. वो प्राइसिंग भी आई एम श्योर बढ़ाएंगे. सेंट किड्स आई सॉ रिसेंटली डबल्ड देयर कॉस्ट एज वेल.
yeah, so St. Kitts from 125 for a single applicant has raised the price to 250 for a family to 300, and all the other Caribbean islands will follow.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. What about the mass market? You said कि जी there is potentially an opportunity there for masses. I mean masses में आप 100% पे तो नहीं जाएंगे, but let's say the next 20%. In terms of residencies or setting up.
देखिए, when I say mass market, it's still the top 3%, because initially this was literally the wealthiest people.
0.001%.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they would deal with they would be the ones. फिर ये top 2 to 3% में आ गया. अब I would say top 8 to 10% are thinking about it.
Right.
People who are worth at least maybe $500,000 at least.
Right.
I would say. Mass market में obviously पे दूसरे programs हैं. We particularly don't deal with them. But then there is the Canadian residency. There is the US. I'm sure कोई programs होंगे. I don't personally deal with those.
तो जिस तरह वो होते हैं ना कि आपके स्टैंडर्ड इमिग्रेशन है,
skill based or education based.
हाँ, ये तो वो होते हैं. Generally, what I'm trying to understand is there are other that you can effectively use money, the ways to bypass, right? So, for example, Dubai, very honestly, the way that I came to Dubai was I registered a company and then I sort of hired myself from that company. And so a lot of people don't even know कि यार ये भी एक basic चीज़ कर सकते हैं आप, या golden visa exists, or US के अंदर you can sort of, and ये चीज़ तो इतनी interesting हो गई हुई है कि अब पूरी दुनिया में available है. So once we did the Dubai thing, हमें ये realization हुई कि आप UK भी जा सकते हैं. I think they're
it's a melting.
Yeah, investor visa or something of that sort.
Yeah.
आप न्यूजीलैंड आपने जहाँ जाना है, आप effectively if you have a certain amount of money, you can show and the ability to build things.
Yes.
So you can really go anywhere.
जैसे मैंने कहा, skills के पीछे most countries are after skills. They're after your clean funds. Everybody needs money. अभी पाकिस्तान ने भी citizenship by investment शुरू कर दी है. अगर सुनी नहीं है तो आप सुनेंगे. उन्होंने कहा जी आप $1 million अगर पाकिस्तान में लगाते हैं तो we'll get you the second passport. It's more for the people. अब obviously कोई British और कोई American पाकिस्तान में citizenship by investment नहीं लेगा. It's more for the people who've been there. For example, the Afghans, they don't have the passport. लगा हुआ है, we'll officially give you the passport.
Right.
और उसमें I think उन्होंने इनफैक्ट ये बोला है कि जो लोग ऑलरेडी वहाँ पे, I'm not very clear on the program, अगर उनके $500,000 या 50 something like that, $50,000 maybe, 30-40 लाख रुपए अगर invested है तो we'll get you the second passport. So all the countries, including Dubai, they like to attract capital. And that's how we see कि दुबई ने अपना golden visa start किया. उसके बाद एक ग्रीन वीज़ा है कि अगर आपके पास प्रॉपर्टी है या आई थिंक 15,000 dirhams की जॉब है, यू कैन अप्लाई फॉर ग्रीन वीज़ा which is for 5 years, and then you have the golden visa which is for 10 years, and hopefully inshallah eventually we will see they move towards the PR and citizenship route.
Do you think they would?
There have been instances where they have decided to invite people. It's never going to be a commercial thing.
Right.
It is when they seem they seem to think you're suitable to be invited, then they will invite you. I don't think it's ever going to be a commercial passport for sale program.
That makes sense, but I think what I understand is that Dubai has largely been a sort of एक ऐसी जगह जहाँ पर आप ट्रांजिशन में जाते हैं और फिर eventually passport के लिए most of the talent ends up in Europe or let's say Canada or Australia. And as I understand now, and I really want to get into that conversation as well, Middle East is really booming. There's so much happening in Riyadh, Neom पूरा उस तरफ बढ़ रहा है, दुबई का अपना एक 2040 का vision है. And if these guys really want to build the Europe of the future, जो right? So उसमें talent is at the heart and soul of it.
Yeah.
And I think जो green visa and golden visa are basically one step towards that प्रोसेस कि जी ठीक है अब आप टैलेंट ज़रा सुकून में बैठे और 5 साल 10 साल के लिए बैठ जाए?
लेकिन they have to retain the talent because it's a talent war now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
और टैलेंट इनहेरेंटली एक इन्वेस्टमेंट होती है जिसको आप बहुत ज़्यादा करते हैं और फिर इवेंचुअली वो चला जाता है यहाँ से फ़ायदा कोई नहीं होता।
absolutely. So this is what Saudi is trying to do. Saudi is trying to attract talent and retain talent. It's an opportunity for everybody. जितने आप multinationals या forward thinking लोग यहाँ पे देखेंगे, they are all setting up their Saudi offices. They've always been in Dubai, at least for either they're moving there or they've been here for a number of years. So I do consider that yes, Middle East is the new Europe, and this is where the opportunities are. And especially the families who've been here for a number of years, they're saying, "Yeah, ji, हमारे पास golden visa है, we'll get a second passport through investment, but we'll continue to live in Dubai." Probably the safest place in the world to live.
What's happening here right now? Why is it? I mean, who would have thought that Middle East, the center of the desert, will suddenly be the only safe place in the world? I mean, Europe is just boiling up. Africa is boiling up recently. Asia जो है वो अपने पता नहीं किस खप में चल रहा है. Potentially new Cold War आ रही है. But Middle East seems like right now is अब तो rather मतलब जो last 6 months में हुआ है with the Saudis and Iranis becoming friends and the Yemen war sort of closing up, and it seems like again वो European moment नज़र आ रहा है. कितने ऐसे लड़ते रहे हैं but suddenly there is this sort of understanding that we really need to begin to sort of work together in our own way and help fuel the next stage of growth.
Absolutely. I think it comes down to leadership. The leadership is fantastic. I wish we had leaders like these. I mean, they're so forward thinking. I remember in 2015 and 16 when the property market crashed and the economy was really sort of struggling, they were all like, this is a challenge. We will overcome this. We will overcome this. And leadership in Dubai, including now the leadership in Saudi is fantastic. They think for the country, they act for the country, they make policies which are beneficial for the country, and everybody wants to be here. It's not just the Pakistanis. Pakistanis चौथे पांचवे छठे नंबर पे आते होंगे. The Indians want to be here. The Chinese want to be here. The Russians want to be here. They're very open-minded.
Yeah.
And
You'd be surprised. I mean, a lot of content creators from Pakistan are moving, right? So it's understandable Pakistani aa rahe. Recently, I've seen a lot of people from Europe and the US, creators, saying, "Okay, listen, like we want to go to हमारी ख्वाब है दुबई जाना," and they've been moving from there to that really.
तो अभी आप सुनते हैं जैसे पाकिस्तान में आई एम श्योर यही मतलब प्रॉपर्टी मार्केट बूम की है. इट्स अ ग्लोबल फैक्ट, राइट? द रीजन फॉर दैट बूम इज बिकॉज दे हैव क्रिएटेड अ प्रोडक्ट विच इज़ वेरी सिक्योर फॉर द फैमिलीज. The ROI is great. So for example, if you buy a property in Dubai, other than the appreciation तो होगी, लेकिन the ROI, the rental you're making is about 6 to 8%, which is great.
Phenomenal. You don't get anything like that anywhere in the world.
Correct. So if you see UK में property struggle कर रही है, ठीक है? Europe में, people don't want to invest because the sentiment is negative because of the war. Dubai is great at marketing itself and attracting capital. So people from all across the world are now investing in Dubai.
Do you think this is a boom bust cycle and it might just sort of correct?
Not this time. It's been like that for a number of years, but this time I think there's so many controls, especially when it comes to property. There's so many controls. The funds are to be moved through escrow accounts. Developers have certain I would say controls and benchmarks they need to follow. I think Dubai for the past few years that I've seen has been very good at sort of giving comfort to the people. KG, your money is secure. I think this will continue because every time you see crisis in the world, so there were the protests, there were religious problems with India mein, a lot of capital came here. Pakistan mein political problems hai. Europe में war हो रही है. China में there's been problems in China also. Hong Kong में protest हुए आज से 2 साल पहले. Africa में uncertainty. Everybody sort of now considers Dubai to be the safe place. Everybody wants to move. So this will continue.
After case, do you see a sudden bump whenever there is a crisis happening in any country?
Yeah, our sales double up. So when the Russian war started, before the sanctions, we did multiple hundreds of passports. Yeah, citizenship by investment. So in our business, अभी पाकिस्तान में turmoil हुआ था. 9th May के बाद our inquiries maybe went up by 300%. So anywhere in the world we see crisis, the inquiries double up. Obviously, the business doubles up. So anywhere really. Abhi, just for example, as I said, Russian war hui. So it's not just the Russians. The people from around the world, they're worried कि जी आगे जाके क्या होगा. We need to secure ourselves. China, South Africa में 2-3 साल पहले काफ़ी मसले चल रहे थे, तो वहाँ से काफ़ी clients आते हैं. So it's not just Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Indians, I have Indonesians.
And what's the legality of all of this?
These are perfectly legal programs. I mean, regardless of what your own government think. For example, as you said, it's in India, it's not allowed to get a second passport. But in itself, these programs in these countries, for example, Dominica may bilkul perfectly legal to have a second passport, right?
Right.
So they're 100% legit programs. The governments do make sure that you're a very clean individual. So if you have any sort of civil cases, criminal cases, if you're a PEP, politically exposed person, they will not offer you the passport. The money has to be, in most cases, money has to be moved through the right channels. There's certain countries, they are open to accepting cash. For example, in Turkey, there is no question of source of funds. वो ये नहीं पूछते आपसे पैसा कहाँ से आया. तो इसलिए दुबई के साथ जो मार्केट ऊपर गई है वो इस्तांबुल की, टर्की की मार्केट है, क्योंकि आप again, Russians invested a lot, Pakistanis invested a lot, because they don't ask where's the money coming from. और इस वजह से भी obviously again ये market ऊपर गई है.
Turkey, my understanding is there's no donation program. There's
no donation program. There is a residency program, which is if you buy a property for $100,000, आपको residency मिल जाती है, वो property भी आपकी है. And then there is a citizenship program, which used to be $250,000. आज वो $4 lakh का हो गया.
Or residency leads up to a passport, or it doesn't?
Residency leads up to a passport in 5 years, but you got to live there and you got to learn the language. Just like Portugal has a number of programs, you got to live there. If you learn the language, you get the second passport.
Interesting. What's the most popular one? Generally, जिसके ऊपर ज़्यादातर लोग कहते हैं कि यार हाँ, this is the most optimized one.
There are multiple answers to this question. देखिए, एक जो brand है पाकिस्तान में वो है Canada चले जाओ बस. Canada is the place to be for the skilled immigration and for the investor immigration. You don't need to sell Canada.
So Canada has an investor immigration program.
Canada has a couple of investor programs. One is a startup visa program, जिसमें आप एक startup में invest करते हैं. Then they always had a investment program called Quebec Investors Program. So these programs are not just St. Kitts and Dominicas in the Caribbean. These programs were initially started from Canada and US. US has EB-5,
right,
which I think is about $800,000 plus other cost. So तकरीबन मेरे हाथ से 9 लाख से 1 million का पड़ता है. You invest there and you get a
and वो investment आपने किसी business में करनी है या real estate में भी हो सकती है?
So उसमें multiple options हैं. This is a very sort of
क्योंकि इस पे question mark ये आता है ना कि a lot of these people don't necessarily want to do any work. Like अगर
you're not supposed to.
Bonds में भी अगर आपने खरीद लिए,
bonds नहीं है उसमें. The EB-5 stand for employment based 5. So they have this program जिसमें आपने you invest certain amount of capital, and then through that capital you have to make sure there's certain number of jobs created,
right,
and that money is invested. तो उसमें I think उनके 2 options है. एक based on which area you are, the investment goes up or down. It's called the EB-5 program. तो इसी तरह कनाडा में Quebec Investors था, वो अभी hold पे है, but there is a very popular program, many Pakistanis doing it. It's called startup visa program. इसी तरह फिर again the Caribbeans, there is Portugal. Portugal has been very 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 popular amongst Pakistanis, the ones who can afford. €3.5 lakh, yeah, minimum 280,000 euro का भी एक plan था. You buy the property, 5 years later you get the money back. And then there's some charges. 5 साल बाद आप language सीखें. You don't even have to move there. So this particular program called Portugal Golden Visa, you don't have to move to Portugal. You can stick to wherever you are.
And you just drop in every now and then.
Yeah, almost 7 days a year you need to spend, and after 5 years you learn the language, you go apply for the passport and you get the passport. So the well-to-do people in Pakistan, they don't want to move out because for them the quality of life is amazing, right? They don't want to go to Europe other than having again financial and freedom and global mobility. So they go for such programs. So coming back to your question, which is the most popular one? I think I don't have a fixed answer, but I think Turkey would be at one point the most successful, the most sought after program. But again, it depends on हर program की अपनी market है. Greece के पास एक golden visa है 2.5 लाख euro का. You buy a property, you get a residency. तो उसमें there's been thousands and thousands of people who went to Greece. Turkey में there's Pakistanis, Afghans, Iranians, Russians. They all went. Thousands and thousands of people. I think I read somewhere they earned about $4 billion through this program. 4 or 8, I can't remember, but it's a huge figure, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, Caribbean, their economies, their GDPs actually depend on the passport programs. They help, they get people's money to run their economy. So it's a very big thing. तो उसमें डोमिनिका पाकिस्तान में बहुत चलता रहा है. But there's certain bad news now. UK ने डोमिनिका को out कर दिया, but they will bring them back in. They're trying to establish an ETA, Electronic Travel Authority program. So it will come back.
So what does that program do, ETA?
ETA is basically Schengen में ETA आ रहा है, and it's going to be for everyone, including the Americans, including anybody who's got visa-free access will need to apply for ETA. ETA is Electronic Travel Authority.
Right.
So when you want to fly to Europe, you have to go fill the form, you have to pay €8. And then you apply, you get a travel authority, only then you can travel. So अभी तो है ना मेरे पास American passport है, I can fly down to Germany.
So visa free के बजाय वो e-visa हो जाएगा of sorts.
ETA उसको कहते हैं ETA. It's not a visa, it's a travel authority.
Okay. So every time you have to go in, you have to put your details in.
जैसे अभी आप पाकिस्तानी है, you have visa-free access to Schengen, to Seychelles, for example, right?
Right.
But when you want to go there, you go online, you apply, and you get a form. You have to take that form with you. So this is the same thing that's going to happen in the UK and Schengen. तो ये सब passports के लिए आएगा, Caribbean के लिए भी आएगा, और बाकी सब passport जिसके पास भी visa-free access है, they will eventually need ETA to get to Europe and to UK.
And say, जो ये Caribbean है, इसमें in terms of mobility, the best one would be St.
They're all pretty much the same. There's been huge interest for St. Kitts.
उन्होंने I think Canada को add कर दिया recently.
So St. Kitts, St. Lucia और Antigua ने Canada को add कर दिया only if you have or had a US or Canadian visa in the last 10 years. Even if it's expired, you can try and get the ETA.
Right.
Same thing.
Right.
It's not visa free.
Right.
Visa free, for example, UK है या Schengen states अभी है visa free. So if you have a St. Kitts passport, you can travel to about 140 countries visa free.
अच्छा.
Yeah, so a lot of Pakistani businessmen, they come to us and they say we need this, mobility option. St. Kitts, Grenada has been very popular. मैंने काफी high net worth individuals को Grenada में help किया है. It's the most expensive. The cheapest one I would say is Dominica. But abhi Dominica se wo access sort gaya hai, so people are moving towards St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Antigua. But all of them, they have their own unique selling points, why one is better than the other. We sit down with the client, we really understand what the requirement is, and then we take them through the process.
Right. This is a non-sponsored podcast. We didn't take any money from Talha for this, but if someone is interested in any of this program, मैं recommendation नहीं कर रहा in terms of the legalities of it. अगर आप पाकिस्तान से बाहर हैं तब तो वैसे ही बहुत it's purely legal. पाकिस्तान के I don't really know, consult your lawyer. But if you want to get in touch, we'll put in a link.
Sure. I mean, the company I work for, I never introduced it because again, we're not doing this for any financial gains. It's Arton Capital. I'm the vice president. And feel free to perhaps email should be okay. I mean, I don't have a link. I can give the link.
Yes, I think we'll put the email address in the in the sort of description, and you can reach out.
I'll give a Muzamil discount.
Great. So reach out with my reference and you get a discount as well. मुझे एक सवाल जो कि generally मैं क्योंकि Middle East आया तो I wanna ask everyone. You've been here for 12 years.
10 years.
10 years, right? And for a lot of people, they've come into Dubai and they've really used this as a point to move further west. You stayed here, and it seems like you're going to stay here. Pre-camera, pre-recording हमारी conversation हो रही थी, तो you were fairly happy about Dubai.
I say go where you are treated best.
Right.
And I feel I'm treated best in Dubai. I don't have to pay taxes. Fantastic. I love that.
Makes sense. And so how do you see the Dubai and overall generally the Middle East in 2050?
again, as I said, the leadership is fantastic. They're thinking 100 years down the line. We're talking about 50 years down the line. They're thinking about 100 years down the line. So I think this will be Dubai, Saudi, the Middle East will be the capital of the world, maybe perhaps the financial capital of the world, because again, they're thinking the right way, they're attracting the right talent, they're attracting the right kind of investors, money, people. As you know, they're offering, these golden visas not just to the investors, but to medical professionals, to scientists, to people of special talent. So many Pakistani celebrities got golden visa from Dubai. So they do understand the countries that will invite and retain talent, make it a place to, stay, feel secure for yourself and for your children, for your family. Will be the ones who will be successful in the end. So I think in 2050 we are looking at it already is one of the best places to live according to me, maybe not by the international standards or ratings, but for me I think it will continue to be there, and it will be much more secure and much more advanced than where we are now. But by far for me I think it will be the most wonderful, most secure place in the world, where people would aspire to be. It would be the Dubai dream, not the American dream.
Makes sense. For a lot of people though, just ending, I want to put this comment out. For a lot of people, they see Dubai as this sort of very plastic, very sort of fancy cars and fancy houses, and जो socials के ऊपर या जो बात है ना Dubai bling popularize हुआ है, which is for people जो कि बहुत ज़्यादा substance वाले होते हैं, they get put off by it. They're like, okay, maybe we don't want this glamorous, this sort of Chanel, Bulgari vibe, or being surrounded by that vibe all the time. What's your experience been with that?
Initially, I found this was true, but now that I've settled in, it's not all about that. It's about, for example, there are times when I haven't been to the marina side or these touristy side, JBR side for months. Maybe it's been a year I haven't been to all these sides, right? You find your own place. और दुबई में हर तरह के लोग हैं. I know people जो they found their place. For example, my mom, she makes sure she spends all her Ramadan here, right? क्योंकि यहाँ पे वो तरावी पे भी जा सकती है, लाइट भी नहीं जाती रमज़ान में, गर्मी भी नहीं होती, ठीक है. तो शी मेक श्योर कि हर पहली रमज़ान को वो फ्लाई करके यहाँ आ जाती है, राइट. रमज़ान मेरे साथ गुजारती है. शी फील्स वेरी सिक्योर. मस्जिद है, साफ़ सुथरी मस्जिद है, रात को मेरे साथ जाती है. आई मीन शी डजंट हैव टू, बट शी फील्स के शी इज़ more comfortable here, right? So it's about finding your own thing. For example, myself, I play a lot of cricket, and कोई बंदा है वो horse riding करता है, या कोई अपने शौक आप पूरे कर सकते हो. So I think it's not all about being plastic. There is a lot of that, and there has been a perception that Dubai is all about that. People say about it. But there are, you find your own place in Dubai, I think. And once you get very comfortable in Dubai, you don't want to move. It takes you a couple of years. So I will come see you again in 2 years. I'll ask you where you are.
That is true.
Once you get settled.
I've had friends who come to Dubai, lived there for 3-4 years, then gone to Canada. Standard जो route होता है, immigration. And once they landed in Canada 6 months in, they were like, यार बस passport मिले और हमने वापस आना है.
दुबई से मेरे बहुत दोस्त कनाडा गए, अबू धाबी से. They cannot wait to come back.
Yeah.
इसकी एक वजह ये भी है, our proximity to Pakistan. Right, so again, my mom is there. I go very often. In fact, now I'm mashallah married, but before I would fly 3 times a month. Every weekend, Thursday, okay, ji Allah Hafiz, I would go for 2 days, meet my friends. I'm very connected to Pakistan.
Right.
I have, in fact, I invested in a few businesses there. So I have, we have some fast food franchises in Karachi, Islamabad, Lahore, Multan. So I have business interests there. तो पाकिस्तानी बिजनेसमैन के लिए दुबई में एक नेचुरल कनेक्शन है, घंटे की फ़्लाइट है, राइट. आई थिंक आप अगर पाकिस्तान कराची से लाहौर जाओ या इस्लामाबाद जाओ तो घंटे 1.5 की फ़्लाइट है. यहीं से घंटे 1.5 की फ़्लाइट जो है आपकी कराची की है. एंड दिस इज़ व्हाई यू सी अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल फ्रॉम कराची इन दुबई. So yeah, for me, it's geographically, it's fantastic. मैं यूरोप भी जा सकता हूँ, मैं अफ्रीका भी यहाँ से जा सकता हूँ. फिर again it's about the product, the airline they've created. It really goes everywhere. It connects you to the world. So you want to be here. हम पाकिस्तान भी जाते हैं, अफ्रीका भी जाते हैं, एशिया भी जाते हैं. So it really is a center.
Africa, you've been to Africa recently.
Multiple times, yeah.
How was that experience?
I love Africa.
Achha.
I like it more than Europe because it's so raw, especially South Africa. And if you speak to South Africans, they never want to move out. It's a fantastic place to be. I wouldn't say the quality of life for everyone, but the quality of life for certain people is very, very good.
Right.
I think Africa has got great potential. Last year I
Do you
attended...
think Africa is really going to grow? Because there's a lot of interesting news coming in from Africa.
It's already grown in the last 10 years. If you see the numbers, if you see the economies, they have some record numbers, especially Nigeria. Uske baad Ghana hai. These are Kenya, they've really grown. So yeah, I think Africa will continue to grow. They have the right mindset. They have the right kind of people. People do want to make, in any African country, I think there's over 50 of them, I think.
वो जनरली हमारा मसला ये है कि हम 4-5 कंट्रीज को देख के पूरे अफ्रीका को हमने डिमोनाइज किया हुआ है, हालांकि वहाँ पे there are some very progressive ones who are doing
very positive thinking. Last year I attended वहाँ पे होती है Ivory Coast में CEO conference, ACF के नाम से. I went there and there was about 400-500 CEOs from across Africa. And that really opened my eyes about the amount of work that's happening in Africa in terms of finance, tech, gas, natural resources, mining. It's also going to boom, I think.
Interesting. Talha, thank you so much for coming in. We're at the 1 hour 30 minute mark. I'm going to wrap this up. But yeah, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much. Very interesting conversation.
Absolutely. And for all of you guys, if you like this conversation, please do give us a thumbs up. Like का बटन दबाएंगे, ज़्यादा engagement होगी, ज़्यादा लोगों तक conversation पहुँचेगी. इसी के साथ साथ ऑडियो प्लेटफॉर्म वाले सब्सक्राइब का बटन दबाएंगे, आने वाले एपिसोड्स का कोई नोटिफिकेशन मिलेगी. अगर आप इंटरेस्टेड हैं एक alternate nationality के लिए for the sake of mobility and or otherwise, we're going to put the email address down below. You can reach out to Talha and his team. Give my reference and you get a nice discount as well. But anyways, let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about second passports, mobility, being overseas Pakistani? Does that make you a Ghaddar, not a patriot, or does it make you an individual, a global citizen? I would love to hear your thoughts as well. But anyways, this was Syed Muzamil Hasan Zaidi. You were watching Thought Behind Things in Dubai. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.